Tiger fans, what's going on, guys? So, today we actually have a lot of stuff to talk about, and I don't want to make this video 40 minutes long, so I'm going to get into it and get to the nitty gritty. So, today there was a lot of things that went on, and the biggest thing being was Spencer Torkelson, my guy right there. So let's quickly touch on the Tigers. The Tigers last week were absolutely dog shit. This team right now, it's hilarious that I made this 81 game where are they going to be, or halfway review last week, and talking about, well, hopefully the second half of the season can be better, and blah, 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 blah. And like I said in the last video, I don't trust their offense, and I didn't trust them to be anything better going forward because of how bad they played and how inconsistent their offense has been and how injured the team's been and the reliance upon rookies and all this other stuff. And this week was just a perfect synopsis of everything that this Tiger season's been. You know, they had one win against Kansas City. And it's a joke because the Tigers went and played the Guardians and they swept them in 4 games. And they shit-wrecked them a couple of the games. And then they played the Guardians and the Royals. That series against the Royals was absolutely pathetic. The Royals are our last place team. They're the worst team in baseball. And what happens? The Tigers lose a series again to them. And it just doesn't make any sense. The only game they won was the third game of the series where they had an offensive explosion. A lot of it had to do with the Royals throwing the ball away. But the Tigers have had so many chances with runners in scoring position over this past week, and they haven't hit. Inconsistent from a bat to a bat. And like Jonathan Scope gets hot and he doesn't do anything, and like Javier Baez is not doing anything again. It's just infuriating to watch, and this team just sucks. Like, they flat out suck. They're not even fun to watch. The inconsistency of night to night basis is absolutely horrible. It sucks. They have a bases loaded against Brady Singer to start the final game of KC, and the game was over by the third inning of that game. It was terrible. They scored 1 run. And then what do they do against the Guardians? Last game before today's game, where there was postponers of rainout to be made up on August 15th. They get the bases loaded again in the very first inning, and they don't score a single run. And what happens? Michael Pineda gets wrecked. This game was 6-0 in the second inning. This game was over before there was 5 outs. The Tigers didn't even manage to take a single game against Cleveland after sweeping them. They lose a series to the lowly-ass Royals, who are the last-place team in the fucking division. This offense again is sputtering. They had one good offensive game all week. Multiple chances of runners in scoring position, and in these last 5 games that they played, or 6 games they played, and did nothing with any of those opportunities besides one game. One game. Pathetically bad this week. This team was horrible this week. So, I don't even want to waste a bunch of time talking about this crap, because that's what it was. It was crap. Big news today was Spencer Torkelson. He got called down to AAA. And frankly, this is a much-needed thing. You know, I've defended Torkelson a lot, and I think Torkelson's going to be a great player. You know, Mike Trout was optioned 3 times before he was in the big leagues permanently. It's not uncommon thing that players who are high round picks get called back down. Over the last 6 years, all number 1 overall picks, the only one that's in the major leagues right now over the last 6 years is Adley Rutschman. That's it. People think that what Mike Trout did, what Juan Soto did, what Ronald Acuna did, that those guys started off at such a young age as absolute all-star caliber players, that's the norm. It's not the norm. Baseball is a hard game, and for people to sit here and I've already been reading all these stupid ass comments. Oh, well, Spencer Torkelson's a bust, another bust by Avila. Like, get real, come the fuck on. Spencer Torkelson, he had a singular year in the minors, 1 year. He was just drafted in 2020, and he didn't even get any rookie ball play like you normally would. Usually when you get drafted, like they had the draft today, we're going to talk about that. Normally you get drafted, you get to go to rookie ball and everything else and have a half a season, quarter of a season of play, and then you get popped into a rookie ball, usually getting to start your first full year, and then you advance up the ranks. Torkelson didn't get hardly any of that because the whole COVID pandemic. So he really only had one full year in the minor leagues, in which he advanced extremely fast. I mean, you look at his numbers, he had 268, 29, 30 homers, 68 RBIs, 29 doubles. He was destroying at every level he went at last year. He was a very good hitter. But this year, it's like we don't even need to reiterate it. It just inconsistency from a bat to bat. His last two at bats in Cleveland were just horrible. Struck out on balls on the outer third of the plate. There was multiple pitches on the inner third that he could have did damage with. I mean, Spencer Torkelson this year is hitting 141 on pitches right down the middle of the plate. He can't hit fastballs. He's been. I can remember my first video this season when we were talking about like a first couple weeks into the season, talking about wow, Torkelson misses a lot of mistake pitches. This hasn't been a thing. This has been a common thing since Torkelson got called up. He's only had really one stretch of time where he had a 12-game stretch where he hit 361 over that 12-game stretch, and I think that was back in like early June, late May, where his average was over 200. And then coming into the Royals series, his average was over 200, but he got to like 202, and it's already back under. It's 197. It's back under the Mendoza line again. There's the at bat consistency has not been there all season. I mean, you got a guy was a 30 home run guy that's slugging 297. You can't have that in a lineup, especially with a team that's got 5 of the worst hitters in all of MLB at the same time on it. You can't have that. Like, I love Torkelson, and I think he's going to be a really good player, and I think his glove plays, his defensive abilities have been huge for this infield defense for as good as it's been this year, because like I said, without inconsistent Javi Baez with his throws. But Torkelson needed to get sent down. It just is what it is. But for people to call him a bust and say he's not ever going to be good, that's just being absolutely stupid and absolutely retarded. Because Spencer Torkelson has a lot of talent. He had hardly any minor league seasoning whatsoever. You look at Riley Green. Riley Green got a quarter of 2019. The 2020 was shortened. He had all of 2021. Plus, he got like 60 at bats when he came back from that foot injury. So, like, Riley Green's had a lot more seasoning. And Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson are two different kind of players. You know, Riley Green doesn't have the kind of power that Spencer Torkelson has, and the kind of damage that they expect Spencer Torkelson to do versus Riley Green. Riley Green's more of a pure hitter, a guy that's got a little bit better eye and a little bit better command of the strike zone. You know, Torkelson has great command of the strike zone. He's a guy that can walk and draw a walk. But Riley Green is just a different style player, a different style hitter, and they're two different style of guys. But Torkelson getting sent down is not the end of the world. It needed to happen. My only thing is the Tigers let him struggle and struggle and struggle and struggle. And I even said in the 81 game halfway point video, it's like I didn't see much of a point of sending him down because he had already been up in the big league so long. But what I hope is that he doesn't go down there and continue to struggle for a prolonged period of time, because like even AJ Hinch said in his comments today that like he's had too many people in his ears and he thinks he's thinking too much at the plate. So I hope this doesn't screw him up for the entirety of the year and he never gets it back going again for the rest of the year, and it leaves a bad taste in his mouth for his his first year of pro ball at the MLB level, and it screws him up, because that thing can screw up. That can screw up guys. There's guys that just don't get it, and it's like I said, I'm not trying to say, like I said, I'm not saying that Torkelson can't be a bust. I'm just saying it's too early that you're saying that he's a bust with not even 300 major league appearances. I just hope he goes down there and doesn't listen to anyone. He goes back to finding his swing. He goes back to seeing, a little bit lesser quality of pitching. He hits a couple of balls square, and he gets his groove back. He gets his confidence back. He gets his feel back, because he is a good hitter. He's an extremely good hitter. He's got great bat-to-ball skills. He's got a good eye. He's good at working the counts in his favor, but he doesn't do anything with it. He misses fastballs down the middle. He misses breaking balls over the inner third of the plate. He gets beat with fastballs up and in. He gets way too in his head about, before he was taking breaking balls away on the outer third for called strike threes. Now he's chasing breaking balls on the outer third for called strike three. It seems like that part of the plate is opened up against him as well. He's just got too many flaws to his swings and too many holes in his game right now, and he needs to get it right. But it don't mean that he's going to be a bust, or he is a bust. He is a very good hitter. From what Hinch says, and I think the Tigers, they, as much as Avila said that they're not throwing away the season, they're not trading players because I feel like they can contend next year and contend right now. you know, they could leave him down for the rest of the year. You don't know. Hinch told Torkelson when they called him down to demote him that he could be there 7 days, he could be there 10 days, he could be there 2 weeks, he could be there 1 month. You know, right now the Tigers have guys in the minor leagues that are hitting well. You know, Cody Clemens has hit 3 straight home runs. He had a home run, in 3 straight games. Gary Carpenter has done nothing but continue to tear it up, hitting home runs again. I think he's got almost 30 on the year. And on top of, they have options for first base. They're not playing games with Jamer either. I think that right now the Tigers are to the point with how bad this season has been and how bad they're underperforming. They don't care who you are, what your status is. If you're not playing well, they're gonna bench you and they're gonna try to find something else to make it work. Because right now with their current record and how many 10-0 losses they've had this year, they've had at least 6 10-0 losses. Harold Castro has to have as many fucking appearances as goddamn Michael Fulmer by this point, and a lot of scoreless innings. But they're getting to the point to where they're doing whatever. They benched Jamer for like the last few games, and they told him he was not playing against after the All-Star break. You need to get your head clear. And they have other options. They have Harold Castro. They could play at first base. They could move Jonathan Scope back to first base. They could put Willie Castro at first base. They could put Jamer back at third and Harold back at first. And obviously Scope can play there. And I don't know if they'd want to do this, but Miggy could still play first base. So who knows? They have a lot of options, but it sounds like the Tigers are dead ass serious about getting the group of players that's going to do this right, and they're making guys earn it. Like Akil Baddoo, you got to think he was sent back down in late May, and he didn't get called back up till this Royal Series, and he had to hit his way. Like he was hitting like 350, and he had like 4 home runs in his last 20 games. They made him earn it, and I think they're going to do the same thing with Spencer Torkelson. They're going to make him earn it. And they're not going to just let him come up because he's a 1-1 overall pick. What I feel bad for Torkelson is now that Torkelson, if he's down there for more than 2 weeks, he's going to lose out on a year of service time. So he's not going to become arbitration eligible as fast. And the Tigers are going to gain an extra year. A lot of that had to do with service time manipulation, that teams used to do that. But with as bad as Torkelson's been playing, they had a legitimate reason to send him down. So the Tigers, with him playing as bad as he did, actually get a win-win out of this as a franchise, because now he's definitely going to be down there for at least 2 weeks. I don't care. The only way that Torkelson's getting called back up within 4 or 5 games is if he goes out there over the next 5 games and hits 7 home runs. Like, that's legit the only way. He's going to be down there at least 2 weeks. So now the Tigers are about to gain an extra year of service time for him, because he's going to be down there at least a couple weeks. So like I said, there's no chance in hell that they're going to let him come up because of right back up unless he's hitting, because they did it to Akil Baddoo. They're making him, they made him earn it back to come back, and they're going to have Austin Meadows back sometime in the next 2 weeks, so there's going to be another bat that's going to come back. So who knows, but it's a needed move. I kind of wish they would have did this back in May when the struggles were definitely apparent that, he was struggling with major league pitching, because it didn't take long to see that, hey, he could use a blow back down to AAA. Like, I would say by the 3rd week of May, close to the start of June, it was pretty apparent that Torkelson needed some time back in AAA. And they waited till almost August. I really wish they would have did it then instead of now, instead of just letting them continue to be like, hey, we're going to give you more opportunities to do up here, but it is what it is. So, Torkelson option to AAA. The Tigers played like absolute garbage this week. Absolute embarrassment of a couple of games they had. They had the one game in Cleveland where Riley Green, he kind of poked out of it, because Riley Green been slumping a little bit. He's had a few more strikeouts. Like, he's had a couple of games this year so far. Like, he had that one against Giolito where he got struck out 3 times, and he had that game against Tristan McKenzie where Tristan McKenzie had 12 strikeouts in 8 innings. He absolutely shit-wrecked the Tigers that game. But Green struck out 4 times that game. But the one nice thing is, you see in the very next day, he had a single with the bases loaded, and he had a home run. The game where they blew after they were up 5-3, and they ended up losing that game 7-5, which was a bad loss. A little bit, the bullpen kind of imploded, but it's not even important to go over. But we're already seeing that the league is adjusting to Riley Green, and Green is making the adjustments right back. And that's a good thing to see, because you see where Torkelson is. He's not on the team. He's not on the Mud Hens. And you see Riley Green, his average kind of dipped off, and he hadn't had a home run since that home run he had for the walk-off homer, that game where he had a triple against the Royals. And then what do you see? He had a bunch of strikeouts, and the very next game, he goes and hits a single with the bases loaded and a home run. So that's a nice adjustment. That's just showing that he's not letting the league get him down. He's watching how teams are pitching him, and teams are getting kind of hip to what Riley's doing, because if you watch when they play him now, like they'll play the third baseman a little bit and they don't shift him as far over. They actually leave him kind of like in the natural spot of a third baseman, not so much to the shortstop side, because Green's really good at hitting the ball the other way down there, and then they kind of play him like straight up in the middle, and your second baseman kind of deepish in your normal spot in the outfield. So the league has already figured out that Green is very good at going back up the middle, and he's got power to the opposite field, and he's very good at shooting the ball down the left field line. Like, if you're going to sit there and move your third baseman to shortstop and have a traditional shift on a left-hander, he's just going to take that ball the other way every freaking time. He did it in Kansas City. He had a ball that was weakly hit off the bat, and they had him shifted in a more traditional shift, and he hit it right down the left field line. So teams are kind of figuring that out, and I think teams are kind of figuring out that Riley kind of likes that inside breaking ball. He'll swing and miss at that pitch. It seems like inner third breaking balls and fastballs up and in, but out of the strike zone, he is a little bit more susceptible at that, because he's trying to launch and trying to get extra base hits. And it seems like that down and in, like change up, like left on left change ups, or down and in curveballs and sliders, he'll expand his zone a little bit on that. But like I said, Green is a great hitter. He's got good strike zone command, and you've already seen him make adjustments to how teams are trying to pitch him. So, I love that kid, and I think he's going to be really special. The Tigers today drafted Jace Jung. He's a second baseman out of Texas Tech with the 12th overall pick. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know a lot about this guy. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I did a bunch of research. Like last year, I knew what was going on pretty well, because the Tigers had such a high pick when they drafted Job at number, 3. But this year, they're 12 because they won almost 80 games last year. And it seems like his brother, Josh, is a part of the Texas Rangers system, and he's actually already been in the big leagues for a little bit. But Jace is a second baseman. A lot of people compare him to Max Muncy, but there's a lot of issues with his defense. He doesn't really have a true defensive position, according to the scouting reports and the stuff I was researching before I did this video. But it does seem like he is another guy, kind of like a Torkelson style bat with a little more chase, but just as much power. Like, this kid absolutely murders the ball. He's got just absolutely elite power, but it seems like he has a little bit more strikeout and miss, more so than like Green and Torkelson, who are more like, better eyes, can draw a walk kind of hitters, more bat to ball kind of guys. But it seems like there's going to be a lot of issues of where he's going to play. He doesn't really have a set position in the infield, but he's an infielder. Is he a second baseman? Is he a third baseman? So they just don't know. He doesn't seem like he's ever going to be a Gold Glove type kind of guy, or even he's going to struggle to be a league average defender. So that's a downside. But the kid can mash, and he's not a prep pitcher, which is what a lot of people didn't want to take, which is like a high school guy like Jackson Jobe was, because those guys take so long to get to the big leagues. If you're an elite college hitter, you get up to the big leagues pretty fast, a la Spencer Torkelson. 1 year in the minor leagues and he's up. Adley Rutschman, he wasn't in the minor leagues very long and he was up. So these guys who are elite college bats, their process through the minor leagues can be extremely fast before they get to the big leagues, versus someone who was a prep guy, like Riley Green was a prep guy. They drafted him straight out of high school in 2019. It took him till this year to get to the big leagues. Some of those guys take 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years to get to the big leagues, because they're high school guys. Their level of advancement through the minor leagues, they're literally going from high school dudes that, only a very few select amount are even going to get drafted or even considered for the major leagues, to now going to against guys that are super high draft picks, guys that have elite level talent potential in the lower minors, who are young guys with nasty stuff. The jump is huge. Versus we go high school to college, you play a couple 2 years, 3 years of college, where you're seeing the talent level rise a big level from high school, and you get more acclimated to that, the level of talent leap, you get used to that, and you become a better hitter because of that, or player because of that. Then when you get in the minor leagues, since you already were playing against a lot of guys you were drafted against, and you have the experience of going from high school to college, then it's about the adjustment going up to big league level, but you're more of a polished guy. You were at at bigger programs where the training is better, and you grow more into your body. You become your athleticism gets better versus just the process. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. Long and the short of it, high school dude, you're 18 coming out of it. You're not going to be going up against 21, 22-year-olds. That are freaking great guys that you're seeing stuff you've never seen before. College, you're a little bit older, you're a little bit more mature, grown into your body, you face better talent. Your ascension through the minor leagues, if you're an elite level guy, doesn't take as long. Like I said, Spencer Torkelson, or like even Casey Mize. Casey Mize, even with some of his injury that he had in the minor leagues, he got through the minor leagues pretty fast. But he was a great pitcher at Auburn. So we'll see how that goes. They add is just another guy. The Tigers, I didn't think there was any way in hell they were taking a pitcher in the first round. I mean, they've taken so many pitchers in the last since Avila's been a GM, and they'll definitely need more positional bats. So we'll see how this plays out. We'll see how he goes. We'll see how he ranks in the Tigers farm system, and we'll have to revisit this when the new rankings and everything comes out after the draft for the farm system. So that's what I got for you guys today. Tigers sucked this week. Hitting runners scoring position sucked. The games were absolutely horrible. Got absolutely shit racked. It was an absolute joke that they got a series taken against them against the Kansas City Royals, as bad as Kansas City Royals were. They blew that game against Cleveland. Tristan McKenzie destroyed them, and then they got destroyed yesterday, 10-0. They couldn't even score a run in garbage time. Harold Castro got thrown at the plate. Spencer Torkelson's down in the minor leagues, and they take Jace Jung with the 12th overall pick. I'll be back next week, and we're going to talk about trade deadline. So I got for you guys today. Go Tigers.